And welcome back to America Talks Live. All right, let's talk about Arizona Senator John McCain. McCain is now reportedly admitting that he was the one who turned over the infamous Trump-Russia dossier to the FBI. Now, according to The Guardian, which published excerpts from his new book, McCain says he delivered that information to then FBI Director James Comey. He reportedly writes in his book that he would do it again, and anyone who doesn't like it can, quote, go to hell. McCain says the disturbing nature of the allegations against Trump prompted his actions. He says he had no idea if it was true, which is in order to verify.
And that's where we want to welcome in our next guest, Dr. Jerome Corsi. He is the author of Killing the Deep State. Dr. Corsi, it's always great to talk to you.
Always my great pleasure. Thank you.
All right, so John McCain here now admitting that he has given the Steele dossier over. What's your reaction, Dr. Corsi?
Well, in Killing the Deep State, I made it clear that it was John McCain. I knew that when I wrote the book, that turned over the Fusion GPS document to the FBI, to specifically James Comey. And in doing so, John McCain was working directly with Hillary Clinton and Hillary Clinton's campaign. It was not that John McCain wanted to verify the document. John McCain brought the document over, knowing it was opposition research, wanting the FBI to act on it in order to get electronic surveillance of Donald Trump's campaign. John McCain, I think is now apparent, has always been a never Trumper. He hates Donald Trump, maybe as much as Hillary Clinton hates Donald Trump, and has done everything he can, including delivering that Fusion GPS dossier, which he knew could not be authenticated, to the FBI in order to try to get evidence which ultimately could either keep President Trump from being president or help to impeach him after he became president.
You know, Dr. Corsi, my background is in psychology, and so I try to think about what's going through people's minds in the developmental course of life. And of course, John McCain is facing a lethal illness and probably his own death, and you'd think he'd be concerned about his legacy. However, people get old, sometimes people get grumpy, sometimes people get a little mentally even off balance. And I don't think that it would be a crazy idea if we were to learn that that was the case with John McCain. So giving all deference there, how is it that John McCain at this point in his life is looking at a legacy of obstructionism that he's always criticized, at least for the last 8 years?
Well, John McCain's even parted with Lindsey Graham on this, who is going to vote for Gina Haspel for heading the CIA. They've been friends for a long time. I mean, my PhD at Harvard in political science was in behavioral science, so I've never been very good guessing what people are thinking. But I've been pretty good at guessing and knowing what they're doing. And John McCain has taken a series of really aggressively antagonistic steps towards President Trump, including casting the decisive vote that prevented the Obamacare repeal and replace vote from going forward. And now we know, and as I pointed out in Killing the Deep State, John McCain joined the co-conspirators who were planning this traitorous coup d'etat within Hillary's organization, and he properly identified that the FBI was the place to get the traitorous conspiracy seated within the Department of Justice.
Well, you mentioned Gina Haspel. We also want to talk about this tweet from McCain where he's urging his colleagues not to confirm Gina Haspel to become the next CIA director. McCain tweeted that he thinks Haspel is a patriot who loves the country, but her role in overseeing the use of torture, he says, disqualifies her. Lawmakers grilled her, as you know, during her confirmation hearing yesterday over her involvement in a secret CIA prison where suspected terrorists were tortured. Take a listen.
Do you believe in hindsight that those techniques were immoral?
Senator, what I believe sitting here today is that I support the higher moral standard we have decided to hold ourselves to.
Can you please answer the question?
Senator, I think I've answered the question.
No, you've not. Do you believe the previous techniques, now armed with hindsight, do you believe they were immoral? Yes or no?
Senator, I believe that we should hold ourselves to the moral standard outlined in the Army Field Manual.
Dr. Corsi, do you find it odd that Senator McCain, who did vote to confirm former CIA Director John Brennan, who was also involved
of President Trump? I mean, Brennan, yes, John McCain voted to confirm John Brennan as head of the CIA. And it was clear that before his confirmation hearings, Brennan said he had supported the enhanced interrogation techniques, During the hearings, he said, well, he maybe have changed his mind after he read the Senate Intelligence Report. And then as soon as he became head of the CIA, John Brennan went back to saying enhanced interrogation is a good idea. What I think John McCain's really afraid of is that Gina Haspel and the CIA is going to uncover his also traitorous activities when he joined Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama in wanting to support these so-called moderate rebels in Syria. There weren't any moderate rebels in Syria. Hillary was running an illegal gun running program from Libya through Turkey into Syria, and they were arming what became Al-Qaeda, rather ISIS, a spinoff of Al-Qaeda. This was the beginning of ISIS, and John McCain was at the heart of that. And there are photographs of John McCain in Syria with some of the key players in the so-called moderate rebel group opposing Assad in Syria that ultimately ended up being the leaders of ISIS.
And welcome back to America Talks Live. We're here again with Dr. Jerome Corsi, again, the author of the book, Killing the Deep State. Before the break, we were talking about Gina Haspel's confirmation hearing, and you were talking about Senator John McCain basically working with the Obama administration and also Hillary Clinton.
But Dr. Corsi, John McCain wasn't the only Republican who was involved in that, running guns through Benghazi, Libya, into Syria, right?
No, he was not. I mean, there were several who were. In fact, I think Lindsey Graham had some role in that as well. But it was predominantly John McCain who led the group to Syria, meeting with the various people who became the leadership of ISIS. There's photographs of the meetings. In fact, you had Paul Ryan meeting with one of them in the United States. And Hillary Clinton was actively running guns. I think it's the whole purpose why Chris Stevens was in Benghazi. He got to Benghazi before Gaddafi was overthrown. Hillary and the State Department, together with the Obama administration, were bringing weapons into Libya from before the time Gaddafi was overthrown. Then after he was overthrown, Chris Stevens became ambassador. He went back to Libya. He operating out of Benghazi. And those weapons were going from clandestinely, and Hillary lied about this for a long time, to Turkey and then into Syria to arm these rebels who were going to be the Syrian rebels against Assad, who were going to become ISIS. Now, that cover-up, I think, is part of the reason why Chris Stevens was allowed to be killed. Hillary did nothing to save Chris Stevens. The day he died, they were all watching it in the White House operations room. Those pilots, you know, even if the airplanes coming from Italy, even if the airplanes ran out of gas, any U.S. military pilot would say, you can dish me out of the Mediterranean, you get a new airplane. I'm going to save the Americans who are under attack in Benghazi. They were ordered to stand down. Chris Stevens, in his last meeting, had a meeting with Turkey. That was his last meeting before he died. I'm sure they were talking about gun running. And Hillary Clinton's been covering this up for years.
Just not
and
sure,
John
you
McCain,
know, when from all the things that you say and all the things we're watching today, is now in a league with Khalid Sheikh Mohammed and Rand Paul and Kamala Harris. It's just not where I thought we'd see John McCain on his last days. But Dr. Jerome Corsi, you've written the book on it. Thank you so much for your time today.
My great pleasure. Thank you.
Absolutely.